What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the TokenMinorities, bringing you Week 6 of Season 8 of the CPC, and this week we are up against Baconchest and his St. Kilda Serperiors. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you guys like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, as it helps us out a ton and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. But anyway, on to the team. Like I said, we are up against Baconchest, and his team consists of Zygarde 50%, Mega Diancie, Reuniclus, Empoleon, Shaman, Tornadus, Incarnate, Drapion, Mismagius, Entei, Xurkitree, and Beware, with Missy and Zygarde 50 being his Z users. Now, this game is a little bit of a revenge game because last season, after I had already clinched the first seed in my conference and Bacon was a potential playoff opponent, I decided to just like bring a bunch of random stuff, just like stuff that I knew that I wouldn't actually bring in the game against him, and he did end up beating me, and he ended up talking a little big. So after I heard that, I was like, okay, let's see what happens when I bring a team when I'm actually still trying to clinch up that first seed. So yeah, this is a little bit of a revenge game, and this is going to be tough because he does have a very scary team, but at the same time, I feel like I have a ton of things. Well, not a ton. I have two things that break his team really, really, really well. Obviously, I have to be on the lookout for Zygarde, Mega Diancie, and Reuniclus, as all three of those things are scary. Xurkitree, if you do not respect that thing, you will get bopped by it. And then same with Entei, just being able to spam Sacred Fire, because Greninja is like a crit Sacred Fire, I think even just Okos me from full. That's how strong Entei is and how frail Greninja is. So this is going to be a very tough matchup, but that being said, I do think I have the right amount of stuff to be able to win the game. The first thing I am bringing is a Calm Mind Dual Stab Tapu Koko with Calm Mind, Dazzling Gleam, Thunderbolt, and Volt Switch. This thing demolishes him. Like, there's so much that I can set up on. I can set up on the Torn, I can set up on the Mismagius, I can set up on the Xurkitree, I can set up on a potentially bulky Reuniclus, I can set up on, well, not fully set up on, but I can get a +1/+1 on a Mega Diancie, I can set up on Shaman, I can set up on Empoleon, I probably just repeated mons that I can set up on, but yeah, Tapu Koko obliterates him with, and all I need is my dual stab. So I'm just going with that. This thing is actually going to be my lead in this game, just because I want to punch a huge hole. If he tries to lead to get up rocks with something like, well, I mean, his rockers are Mega Diancie and Empoleon. Both of those things, Koko gets a free +1 against, and then I can kill something at the very least. So yeah, Koko's going to be my lead, and then I have Volt Switch on there as well, just because in the case that I Calm Mind up, break a hole, and then switch out, I still have Volt Switch momentum for a hard-hitting move that does allow me to switch out later in the game. So that's why I decided on this set. The speed is enough for his Tornadus, and then I just maximize the bulk as much as I could while being very especially attacking oriented. Next up is a super straightforward Water Shuriken, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Surf, Greninja, and the only real thing that's weird about this set, I'm speeding through this because the sets are very, very straightforward. The only thing that's even remotely interesting about this set is the option of Surf over Hydro Pump. Basically the only two mons that I'm going to be clicking Surf against, as opposed to like Dark Pulse or Ice Beam or Water Shuriken, are the Entei, the Beware, and the Mega Diancie. All the Entei and Mega Diancie are both, well, and the Drapion, I suppose, but Entei and Mega Diancie are both O-code after rocks by Life Orb Surf anyway. Beware I have Tapu Koko for, so I'm not as worried about that thing. And then the, what was the last one? The Drapion, I have enough mons for that thing too, that I can, like, Surf still hits it incredibly hard as well. So, like, there isn't enough calc difference. I just opted for the reliability of Surf over Hydro Pump, and the speed, much like Koko, is going to be outspeeding the Torn. Next up is going to be a Nidoqueen with the Payapa Berry, Earth Power, Ice Beam, Super Fang, and Stealth Rock. This is going to be a pseudo check to Reuniclus as well as pseudo check to Mega Diancie, just basically trying to play the mind game of okay, do I have the Shuka Berry or do I have the Payapa Berry? I'm thinking that he might think that I have the Shuka Berry because, I mean, that's a much more obvious bring on Nidoqueen, so I'm kind of trying to play a mind game right here, go for the Payapa Berry and maybe catch him going for Psychic with his Mega Diancie. Otherwise, Earth Power, Ice Beam cover his team very, very nicely. That is coverage that is, you'll see is very, very common on this team, like is kind of a common theme, especially ice moves in particular. Stealth Rock gets rocks up, and Super Fang is nice for chipping the Empoleon easily, the Zygarde, the Reuniclus, just basically anything on his team that is bulky, Super Fang can wear down, and then just a good amount of mixed bulk with enough special attack to be a threat. Next up is going to be a Pinchberry Buzzwole with Ice Beam. I almost said Ice Beam. Ice Punch, Substitute, Drain Punch, and Roost. So just Dual Punch, Sub, and Roost, because I will force switches, especially like forcing out his Zygarde. I can sub up on that thing and then Drain Punch something, Ice Punch. Just basically, this is my Zygarde check. And with the Pinchberry, I will be able to take hits and go all the way, well, not all the way back up, but I will be able to recover 50% of my health in the event of HP flying. Drain Punch is nice for like the Empoleon, the Mega Diancie on the Switch, and Ice Punch is good for the Zygarde and the Shaman. Next up is going to be my Swampert with Roar, Scald, Earth Power, and Ice Beam. I have just dual stab. I mean, once again, Earth Power, Ice Beam, just because that combo covers him so well. Scald is nice for the Entei, just a nice spammable move. See if I can get a burn on something potentially. And the Roar is to prevent something from setting up on me. The Spadef is enough to not be 2-hit KO'd by Life Orb Reuniclus Psychic from full. And finally, I have my Mega Diancie counter. This one is designed to switch in and take on Mega Diancie in my Porygon 2 with Analytic, Recover, Ice Beam, Tri-Attack, and Iron Tail. I opted for Analytic over Download just because Download is unreliable. Analytic, my Porygon is really slow, so it's almost always going to be moving after something, so I will still have basically a Life Orb boost on my Porygon with all the attacks, and that little extra boost to like Ice Beam and Iron Tail makes all the difference in the world. So yeah, that is the team. Let's just go ahead and hop right on over to the battle. Alrighty, here we are in the battle, and the first thing I'm noticing is that there is no Entei, Xurkitree, or Beware, three things that I was actually somewhat worried about. I mean, like, I obviously had a way to deal with all of them, but at the same time, not seeing them is very, very nice. Seeing Drapion is a little bit disconcerting, but at the same time, like, it's really exactly what I expected. Now, I'm anticipating him to lead off with his Empoleon, as it does have a beneficial matchup against both of my rockers in Nidoqueen and Swampert, so I'm thinking that's what he's going to try to lead with in order to counter-lead me, but I am just going to try to bust a hole into his team. Like, I'm trying to set up with my Koko turn 1 and just see what I can obliterate, so that is exactly what I'm going to do. Going to lead with my Koko, as he does end up leading with his Empoleon, and if he wants to get up rocks turn 1, cool, I'm going to get up my first Calm Mind as he goes into his Shaman, and now knowing that there is absolutely nothing Shaman can do, I'm going to go straight for the second Calm Mind. I'm getting greedy. I am boosting turn 1 as he does go for the Leech Seed, so I'm like, okay, this is a bulky Shaman. I can't boost up too much, and while I could just go ahead and Calm Mind up a third time, I just figured I'd get rid of the Shaman, get rid of his initial answer to Koko, and now Shaman is gone. My Koko is at +2/+2, also still at 88%, so I can come in and set up on the likes of Empoleon, Diancie, Reuniclus if it's not Trick Room. Even though if it's not Trick Room, I will be absolutely shocked. Like, it's gonna be Trick Room. So I have opportunities to set up. Basically, I traded my Z move and 12% on Koko for his initial Koko switch-in, which is absolutely fantastic for me. Now he's going to go into his Drapion, and I make a little bit of a questionable decision. Now, I will be honest, at this point, like, I played this game after I had just gotten hacked into oblivion in a game earlier that day, so I was admittedly on tilt and playing, and I make a play that's a lot more careful than I necessarily needed to be. So there's a couple things that this Drapion could be. It could be a non-bulky set to where I just straight up OHKO that. It could be a Scarf set which would outspeed me and could hit me really, really hard with Poison Jab. Or it could be a Spadef set, in which case Poison Jab or Earthquake would not be doing jack to my Tapu Koko, and I would be able to very easily 2-hit KO that thing. However, because of the aforementioned tilt that I was experiencing, I was thinking of the absolute worst case scenario of him being an offensive Scarf Drapion that would outspeed and potentially crit my Koko. Now, he wouldn't be able to KO me without a crit, but if he crits my Koko, all of a sudden, I lose a huge, huge, huge Mon that does so well against his team, and Koko, like I said, has the opportunity to set up later, so even though I was way overly cautious, when I really didn't end up needing to be, even though I was all that, I still think that my play is decent because Coco, with the Volt Switch, I can Volt Switch out on like the Empoleon, Reuniclus, Diancie. I can Dazzling Gleam the Zygarde later. Like basically Coco has enough use that if he is that one specific Scarf set and gets a crit, it is not worth losing my Coco over. So I am going to end up switching out into my Nidoqueen as he goes for the Earthquake. That's revealed to be uninvested in attack damage, and I am going to be able to get my rocks up right off the bat as he gets his Toxic Spikes up, which is a really good play by him because the rest of my team is grounded, so something's going to have to take a poison at one point or another. I am going to stay in, just feel out the damage as the Earth Power does reveal that this is a max HP Drapion. I don't remember if I figured out exactly what it was. I don't remember if it was a little bit of Spadef or a decent amount of Spadef. This was earlier this week. But either way, I get a heavy chunk to where now, with rocks, it's in range of Greninja's Surf as well. So I'm not going to let my Nidoqueen go down just yet. I'm going to go into my Swampert because Swampert isn't meant to stick around. It's not like Buzzwole or Porygon 2 where it's meant to have the longevity in this battle. It's meant to be there. It's meant to come in. It's meant to delay things like Reuniclus and Diancie. And I will be able to reabsorb the Toxic Spikes with my Nidoqueen. Gonna go for the Earth Power as he goes into his Empoleon, reveals the Shuka Berry. That's even better as it does. It shows me that it was his lead to counter-lead both of my rockers, but now I'm just going to go straight into my Nidoqueen to absorb the T-Spikes, and basically my plan was to sack off Nidoqueen at this point if he went for a Scald, go into my Coco, set up again with a Calm Mind, and this time absolutely blow through his team. But, unfortunately, he doesn't end up killing me as I am going to be able to go for the Earth Power, get some good damage off on Empoleon as he goes for the Scald and knocks out my Nidoqueen. Now, at this point, I could go into Coco, like I said, and go for the Calm Mind. But unfortunately, the Empoleon is in Torrent, and I'm, again, in the mindset of worst case scenario is going to happen. I'm extremely paranoid because of the tilt from playing earlier that day. So instead of going into Coco and trying to set up on a Torrent boosted Empoleon Scald, even though he is proven to be a bulky variant, I'm just going to bring in my Greninja. It means he cannot bring in his Zygarde, his Diancie, or his Drapion. I will kill something, as I will go for the Dark Pulse and knock out his Empoleon. Now, this forces in the Reuniclus, and even if he's offensive, I will not be able to one-hit KO it with a Dark Pulse, so I am going to go straight into my Swampert as he goes for the Trick Room, and I just kind of want to feel this thing set out, because if it is a purely offensive set with Trick Room and Life Orb, I should be able to 2-hit KO with Dark Pulse into Water Shuriken, assuming I don't get incredibly low rolls or just medium rolls and only 2 hits with Water Shuriken, and then I was jinxing myself by thinking about that. So I wanted to feel out this Reuniclus a little bit more before I committed to the Greninja side of things. So I go into my Swampert just to see what this Reuniclus wants to do, as I will not be 2-hit KO'd by Psychic, as you can see, and that has proven that Reuniclus is a Life Orb set. And I actually go for the Roar as opposed for just damage on Reuniclus, because what that does is it drags out either the Zygarde, the Drapion, or the Diancie, all three of which my Swampert will be slower than, and I will be able to get off a heavy hit. And if something comes in and Reuniclus does come back in, like he does end up doing after I bring in Diancie, Reuniclus is just going to come right back in. I stalled out an extra turn of Trick Room, which is going to be actually pretty darn nice for me. As I go for the Earth Power, get the Spadef drop, proves he's not lefties, but the damage already showed that he was Life Orb. And now I'm going to go into my P2 to take the Psychic, kind of pivot around, because with Swampert, basically what my plan is to bring Swampert in as Reuniclus kills it on the last turn of Trick Room. So it was just kind of a pivot, go into Porygon 2, switch back into Swampert so that it does die on the last turn of Trick Room with the Spadef drop, which is really nice. Had he not, or even just the damage that I had with Earth Power, Greninja, would be able to KO it with Dark Pulse. So now I'm going to pull the switch back into my Swampert to sack it off, like I said, as he goes into his Drapion, and now Swampert will go down, Trick Room will expire, but Drapion is 100% in range of a Life Orb Surf from my Greninja, which is exactly what I'm going to go into, and I'm going to claim my kill once again with Life Orb Surf, knocks out the Drapion, and puts me in an amazing position. He goes into Reuniclus. Now that I know what this thing's set is, I'm thinking he's going to try to go for the Trick Room once again, so I'm just going to make the aggressive play and go for the Dark Pulse into Water Shuriken, just kind of go for it, hope I can get the 3 hits, and luckily enough for me, I do, and Greninja is able to knock out this Reuniclus and basically seal up the game for me, as Porygon 2 will be able to 1v1 both the Zygarde and the DNC at this point. So now with the Zygarde in, it's faster than my Greninja. I could go for the Ice Beam, but I don't want to take the hit. I want to keep it in case DNC somehow manages to beat my Porygon 2, and I can have the Water Shuriken in the back. But now with Buzzwole in, I'm going to go for the Ice Punch, and it ends up freezing the Zygarde, as he is revealed to be a Rocky Helmet set, and we talked later, he was a Coil set. So yeah, I mean, the freeze sucked, and he would have been able to get a Toxic off on my Porygon 2, but as you will see, that actually doesn't end up mattering at all, as my Porygon 2 is going to be able to knock out this Zygarde from there with an Ice Beam. With Analytic Ice Beam, I think I might have even been able to knock him out from very near full. Like, he just did not have enough moves with what he told me his set was in order to win the game, and I will be able to knock DNC out with the Iron Tail. Had Porygon 2 even just, like, had he somehow miraculously gotten my Porygon 2 down to a low enough amount of health to where DNC was able to knock it out with Moonblast before I could Iron Tail, Greninja still guaranteed 1-hit KO'd with the Surf. So I had the game clinched anyway, even I had the differential clinched at 4-0. So we are able to get revenge on Bacon for last season. So yeah, I mean, this was a very good game. Greninja and Coco absolutely came through. Coco punched a huge hole, and even though I was a little bit tilted from the game I had earlier that day, I still played well enough to win 4-0. And sorry, I was like able to win 4-0, and I talked to Bacon after, and it turns out I probably could have just won 6-0 by setting up with Coco from turn 1, getting up to +3, and then just sweeping through his team, but I mean, why risk a potential win con when you don't have to? So yeah, that is the game, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.